right, guys, here we are, baby. 2 Down, 1 Over podcast. We're in the building. I'm Josh Mason. This is Matt Flanagan, and we're here to rock the mics, man. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm good, dude, man. You know what? The Giants are out of the playoffs. That was horrible. Horrible, man. I know. And you fly, Eagle fly guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I noticed I didn't say anything.
I know. You did. You stayed quiet.
That's the first time you brought it up.
You did. You stayed quiet, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but I have been meaning to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you sure. But listen, the team's good, man. You guys are good. You know, I hope you lose this weekend, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so
you know what
I'm
saying?
Yeah, that's right. You either love the Eagles or you hate the Eagles.
Correct.
There's no in between.
And I think it's the people who hate the fans.
The fans.
At the end of the day, I think
we're like.
Yeah, it's just
and
wild.
And honestly, I'm one of those guys. Like I'm super.
Yes.
Like high and low. So like they win a game, you're like, yo, we're going to Super Bowl.
Right.
And then you're like, we lose a game, you're like, oh, they're a bust.
But
Jalen
you
Hurts
wouldn't
is a
peg
bust.
me as an Eagles fan.
Why is that?
It's just like I went to Temple. I lived in Philly, so like
Yeah.
I really see them, right? And
Yeah.
then I know a couple around local. Like you're not like that typical Eagles fan, which is
I'll take
a
I know.
compliment.
That is a compliment.
Yeah.
I know that's
You
a
know what I'm
compliment
saying?
because like they are crazy.
Yeah,
And I understand.
And
like,
don't take it
people are
personal. The people out there, if you're Eagles fans, all
Yeah.
right, don't get your feelings hurt.
it's,
I
you
just
know,
don't like the Eagles.
It's passion.
It is.
Right?
We'll
It's
call
passion,
it. We'll call it passion.
right?
We'll call
You
it
know?
passion. I think it is.
Yeah, that's all.
So what do we have today? What you thinking, man?
Well, we were talking about this before. We actually just sat in here and we talked for just about like 2 hours.
Yeah, we
right?
could have rolled the podcast.
I know.
then.
We should. I wish
Yeah.
we were rolling.
Yep.
But one of the topics that came up was the fear of success.
Yes,
And
huge.
like that's like a real thing.
And I don't think people think it's real.
No, and I think that's something that has been newer to me too. And
Yeah.
and like I remember hearing about it when I was a kid,
Yep.
and maybe I did have a little bit of it.
Sure.
Okay, but as I've worked with kids, I feel like it's become more apparent
Yeah.
that that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's super real. And it's crazy to think about that because when you say the fear of success, like why would you be scared of like
I know.
right? When you just put it down on the table, like why would one be scared of success? Like I would assume like everyone wants to be successful in something, right?
Right.
In something. So like how are you scared of it? Like why if someone came and said, "Hey, here's a success card," and you're scared to take that card?
hey,
Like yeah, it's a weird system in that approach, but like it's true, man. Like fear of success keeps people down.
Yeah.
And like you said, like in our business, especially in the gym, like we get to see a lot of athletes, right? We deal with a lot of athletes, and it's funny that we come across tons of them where they're fearful, like
Very fearful.
they're feared to succeed, and you're just like, man, why?
And I could tell you one thing, and we actually, if you listen to our last podcast with Dr. Walker, he kind of touched on a little bit.
Yep.
This area
Yes.
is tough.
Yes.
You start to climb the ladder a little bit, and you have people that want to bring you down.
Yep.
And a lot of it, especially being a high school athlete, it's tough when you start to succeed and then people start to talk about you.
Yes.
And and people have every excuse in the book why you're doing what you're doing and how you got there. And so I could understand that because it's like that's such a vulnerable time as it is.
Yes.
And I've seen that through the past couple of years. I had an endurance runner and amazing.
Right.
Like off-season training, blew it out of the water and so unbelievably talented. But then the lights come on and nothing happened.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what? I'm
Right.
scratching my head. I'm thinking, but that was the case.
Yeah.
And I know that was the case.
Yeah.
I know that was the case.
And you know, when you talk about the fear of success, I think the biggest thing is success is uncomfortable.
it is.
Right? Like
yeah.
let's like success is uncomfortable, and I think people do not want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you could get around that.
No.
If you want to be successful in something, there's going to be discomfort and uncomfortable situations or habits or routine or whatever that you're not going to enjoy necessarily, or it's going to make you feel. And I think that's where the people run.
Right.
Like the moment they feel uncomfortable, they're like, no, I got to do something else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because we crave that, and it's a natural
Yes.
thing, right?
Yep.
We've identified that as that we crave that comfort.
Yes.
And we've talked about this before, but we have to go through that fear. And until you actually go through that and come out the other side, you don't know. You don't want to do it. You don't
Yep.
want to do it. And that's why it is super important to like have those role models and have people to help you go through that. Because if you don't experience that and if you don't walk through that, you're not going to get through it. Because if you rest on your own laurels, if I rested on my own laurels my whole life, I would not be right here, right now.
Yeah. And I think that's well said, because you have to be forced sometimes to do the uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Because if you just rely on yourself, sometimes it's very easy to talk yourself out of something, right? Just definitely. Like, well, no, I'm nervous, or I don't like the way this feel, like I'm uncomfortable, or I'm scared of critics, or I'm scared of whatever it is. I'm going to pass up on that opportunity, right? But if you have, like we say, surround yourself, right, with good people, that you'll probably have that energy around you where people are going to step up and be like, yo, dude, this is a great opportunity for you. Yeah. Like, yo, you might be nervous, but hey, listen, this was a situation when I was in this opportunity. I wasn't going to take it, but I took it, and then look what happened. So, like, things like that will be very helpful for that person that is struggling.
And I think something that, like, we have to realize too is that there's responsibility that comes with success. You know, and I mean, this is kind of off topic a little bit maybe, but you see NBA players and like somehow like how they compose themselves.
Sure.
It's not good, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, and in the same token, like if you're a high school athlete succeeding, you're also in the spotlight a little bit. So you have to behave yourself. Yeah. You know, you are in the spotlight a little bit.
It is. And maybe that's where the fear, right? Is like, hey, I don't want that much pressure on me, or I don't want the light on me, so to speak. And that could be what people stay away. You know, other things where I think is also you're concerned about what other people think. Yeah. Right. So like that fear of success is like, I think deep down, again, we said it, like everyone wants to be successful. Yeah. But what it takes and how it makes you feel is where it's uncomfortable. And I think ultimately people are so concerned about what other people think, because in order to be successful, you may have to do things where people question you, or people doubt you, or people say, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, yo, dude, don't, you know what I'm saying? And, or you're doing things outside of the box of your social norm. Right. And I think that's what captivates and like cripples people in a sense of like, I'm not going.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think like, I'm trying to think how I put this, but for like what is success? Yeah. Right. Like what is success? Like success for me isn't the same thing. As you, right. But as
subjective.
It's subjective. But as growing up and stuff, and you know, having a great career, or signing for college, or you know, making the grades, even like sometimes like I've seen kids and understood that like kids are afraid to get good grades. Yeah. Because of what other people will think of them, or
and that's
call
crazy.
Them a nerd,
yeah,
and call, you know,
right. Yeah, no.
You know, like what other people will say, and what. So like that's nuts, dude.
It is.
Like that's nuts.
And you know, like our motto, get your mind right, in the gym is like, and that's where I'm at with it. And we've said it in the previous podcast of like when you feel uncomfortable, when you feel that like pit in the stomach kind of like of doing something new or opportunity, like that's when you know you should do it.
That's it.
I always say like that's when you know you should do it, because at the end of the day, that means there's growth on this other side of that.
And we just talked about this before. What happens after you do that?
Yes.
The sense of relief.
Yes.
The sense of like, because I feel like you grow immediately.
Yes.
You go through this fear. You walk through this fear, whatever it is. And for other people, it's different things, whether it's like having your signing day picture in the paper to see how well you did. Yep. Or you make the grade, which that is your potential, and you can do great things, right? That sense of relief, that sense of accomplishment, you walked through it and you got through it, and the ceiling just raised.
That's it.
I think another thing that we got to talk about too is like we set ceilings for ourselves.
Yes.
Right? Yep. We want to succeed. Everybody wants to succeed, and we have these goals and we have these things that we want to achieve, but they're up here and we set the ceiling here. Why is that?
Right.
Why do we set that ceiling? Is it we grow up and we think that we can only achieve this far? We want to get here, but we can only achieve this far. Yep. One of the first things that you said to me is you got to raise the ceiling. Yeah. You know, you got to raise the ceiling. And why is that? Talk about that a little bit.
So I go on the idea of being limitless. Mm-hmm. Like I constantly tell them I'm limitless. I could do anything. right? It's like it's belief first, and I removed that ceiling. I could do anything. It doesn't matter if I put my mind to it, and this is what I want to go after. I know I can eventually get it done or make it happen. But it's super important to remove that ceiling, because you can get caught up, especially in your social circles, or in society and their values and laws, so to speak, that you get like pushed down to where, hey, this is it. Right, this is it. Yeah, so I think we spoke about this before. Like, when you're young, you have a great imagination and you can dream, like, and you have these big dreams, and like anything can happen, anything you could think of. And then slowly, as we go through our life and our experiences, we get influenced by others and our surrounding, our environments of where they say you can't, or it's not possible. Yeah. And then that meter of where your dream mark was up here or imagination was up here, it starts to diminish, right? It just gets lower and lower. And I think people fall into that trap. And then as they come out of it and say they're in adulthood at that point, now they only have this much of dream or imagination. So now that's where they scale their goals.
And it's almost in your subconscious. It's like you can't even control it, right? Because it's in your subconscious, because you're told this stuff, you're fed this stuff, and you just keep hearing it. And you just like, oh, and in the back of your head, that's where it is, and I can get to here. And it's almost like it's just that innate feeling that this is as high as I can go. So that being said, and we see it all the time, and we talked about a couple examples, and we're not going to embarrass those people, obviously, but we do want to shed light on it because it's a real thing. And how do we get through this? Like, how do we get to the next step of this, where we can get through that and we can achieve our full potential, where we are like, anybody can think like that they're limitless. How do we get through that? What are we going to do?
Well, I mean, think of our last podcast with Sean Walker, like his potential to performance. That's amazing, right?
Amazing.
And the thing is to say, hey, it's great that everyone has potential, but it doesn't mean nothing if you don't perform or you put action towards it, right? So like,
keyword.
That is it, man. That is the key to mostly everything. The fact, what are you doing? Why are you like you're not successful? Because of inaction. Like, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or you're not doing what it takes to be successful. So like, if you continue to avoid and continue to do the inaction, like, you're never going to get like, there's no other way.
You can't think your way into the way of act.
No
you
other
have
way.
to act your way into the way of thinking.
Action
it always comes down
execution.
to action. Always comes down.
Right.
Action, execution, like you just said.
You have
Absolutely.
To. You have to. And that's the only thing, and I always say it, that moves the needle, right? That moves the needle. And you have to, like, I know it's simple, and you're like, yeah, you just take action. It's maybe better said than they can do it, but like, that is, if you do that, like, whatever opportunity is in front of you or something you want to achieve, do an action that you normally are uncomfortable with or nervous about or would back away from. Do it. Like, do that action. Because one, you're going to learn that it's not as bad as you thought it was.
Not as bad as you think.
It's not, right? It's not as bad as you thought it was. And then you're going to learn from it, and you're going to gain some confidence. And like, confidence is the superpower, because if you can flip your switch and have some confidence, dude, and your meter goes up, now everything starts to change. Your walk, your thought, your thinking process, your actions, all of that starts to take place.
And another thing that I just got reminded of this when you were talking, is as we were sitting here talking before the camera was on, we talked about, like, in our heads, how we can build things up, build things up. And it's almost like we created this monster mountain out of this tiny hill. And the more we face these things, the easier it becomes, like we said over and over, and we talked about that action. But if we let our mind run with this, and we let these fears go, and we don't take action, what happens? We create a much bigger problem. A much bigger. And I'm guilty of that too. And I know that I've done that, and I've created monster problems out of very, very tiny issues.
And I think that goes for a lot of people. You know, I think a lot of people struggle with that scenario. And, you know, there's a quote that I've read, and I forget who said it, but it says, let your inner critic become your inner coach. right? Like,
Yeah.
so like inner critic,
like that.
become your inner coach. And I like that because it's like, damn, all right, everyone has the voice of
Yeah.
the inner critic,
Sure.
right? Of why
yeah.
you can't do this and you're not this good and blah, 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 blah. But why not switch it to be the coach? Like, yes, you can do it, man. Put yourself out there, you know, go for it. This is what you're made for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds crazy, but like if you can make that switch, that will be huge. And I'll tell you what worked for me, man. And I've said this not on the podcast, but in the past about, I say that you have a weak voice and a strong voice, right?
You might have said it on the podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you might have.
A weak voice and a strong voice. And I said, when you're able to silence your weak voice is when your mind is right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people where you go through life where the weak voice is louder.
Yeah.
And if the weak voice is louder than your strong voice, then that's who you're listening to. So small victories and taking opportunities, taking risks and facing fear in those sense will diminish the sound of the weak voice, right? And your strong voice gets stronger because now it's like, hey, you hear the whispers like, no, you can't do that. And then in my strong voice is saying, dude, you put in the work. Yes, you can. Go ahead, right?
Yeah.
And the more you practice that, the more it helped. And like I said, for me, that's how my head was designed, dude. Weak voice, strong voice. And I lowered that weak voice, and it's nothing but strong, baby.
I can relate to that. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know?
It's funny because your responsibility to go one of two ways, and no matter which way you go, there's consequences.
Yes.
You take action, and there's consequences, and if you don't take action, there's consequences.
Yes.
And I think that's super important to know because a lot of times we're sitting up here on a podcast and we're saying what worked for us. But what we also have to realize is if we don't take action, we don't do these things, there's another way to go.
Yeah.
And we've been there too.
Sure,
right?
sure,
So we've definitely been there too. But, you know, but yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
dude. So when you talk about the consequences, the first thing that popped in my head, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Butterfly Effect.
Yes. Yeah,
with,
I have.
Ashton Kutcher. He
I
was
think
in
that
there,
was
right?
Ashton Kutcher. Yeah,
So if you haven't seen it, the cool thing about that, it shows like back to our point of like that action in action. Mm-hmm. So a certain decision would give you a certain outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And the movie would play through that outcome and see you result. And then it would take you back to that point if they decided to do it this way. Then it would give you a different result, right? So like, and Sean touched on this too in the last episode about if you don't take action on what your dream is or what you want to be successful in, you're affecting other people and yourself down the road. Like it's a ripple effect or a butterfly effect that's gonna affect what's supposed to happen at the end.
Yeah.
Right? So like, you got to be conscious of that. So like if you're missing out on being, going after for what you want to go after, and letting fear be in your way, like think about what you potentially could be like setting ripples for.
Yeah.
Right? Where if you do take action, like it's a different game.
Yeah.
When
he said that was like, that hit me on such a deep level. And like being a part of that podcast, the last one, if you didn't listen to it, have a listen.
Oh, must listen.
Because for us, that was
episode 13, man.
That was unbelievable.
Crazy.
I was like on a spiritual level, listening to him talk.
That was dope.
And understanding what's coming out of his mouth. And like, man, that was amazing. And that was one of the things that he said. He's like, he said, without Josh Mason, there is no Dr. Walker. Yeah. And that put things into perspective for me.
Oh, huge.
And like, it makes me want to be a better coach. It makes me want to do things to the best of my ability.
Yes.
Because I'm doing my best to help people. I really am. But I need to continue doing that because maybe I am helping that person.
Yeah.
Like,
changing lives, right?
Maybe, the universe works through me in a certain way where I help somebody that way and I may not realize it. You didn't realize how much you helped them.
Right, correct.
The people around him helped them. And that made me think like, I am responsible to take these actions and to be the best version of myself. So I can do these things. And then that person helps another person, like the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
like you had said, that's wonderful. Man.
It is, man. And like, I feel like there's a purpose for us to be here, like, and there's a responsibility to like serve others.
Sure.
And I think there's like kind of a not a roadmap, but like a purpose for us.
Yeah.
Right. And when you say it like that, it's huge. It hits home, man. If you're suffering from inaction, like, man, like, think about it though. You could change lives. So like by you just doing that, but being, I don't want to say stupid, but just being like scared to go through that little discomfort. Like, it's just 100 times better if you just go through it, man.
Walk through it,
right? Because you're either gonna grow, but you're also gonna learn. So it may be something that you don't really want, right?
And
you're gonna learn.
Not only are you gonna be better from it, people around you are gonna be better.
Yes.
From it, which is like a higher purpose.
Yes.
And it's tough to think that way too.
Yep.
You know, and I know for me, like the first time I thought about that, I think was like when Dr. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
That hit me on a different level. But I think moving forward in my life, I think that's something that like I want to really put into perspective. But I think that's important if people can grasp onto that. Yeah. Like that's such a nugget, man. And
it's a huge nugget.
You know, to
so
help
like
you walk through that fear.
Yeah, 100%. So when we say like fear of success, right? I believe that there are individuals out there that don't realize that they're fearful of success. Because if you ask somebody like, yo, you're scared to be successful.
Like what, dude? What? Yeah,
I want to be successful.
Yeah.
So like, how does someone realize that they're scared of success or they have that fear of success?
Yeah, and that's a
like,
great
because maybe
question.
like they don't even know it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They're going through life, and we may be able to pick it out, or others may be able, like, man, he's just scared of success,
and
dude. How does one realize it
for like a high school kid? And like I was talking to a young lady last night, and I was like trying to like show that, you know, and I think I'm trying to put myself in those shoes, and you know, you want to get somewhere,
right?
What's blocking you?
Right.
And really like a lifestyle audit, like, or, you know, not a lifestyle, but I like check these things out and, you know, what is it that's holding you back? What is it that's holding you back? And like we said before, is it what people think? Like, is it like, do we set a ceiling on ourselves? Like, could I tell you how to get there? Not really.
Or how to realize it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, awareness, like we know,
awareness
is super key.
Yes.
Once we're aware of something, then we can make changes, right? But we have to become aware of it first. And I think us talking about it, and hopefully people dial into this episode,
you think about it.
And like, are you afraid to succeed? Is that what's holding you back? Are you afraid to have that responsibility? Are you afraid of what people are going to say? Are you afraid to be in fearful situations often? You know, is that relate to you? Does that apply to you?
Yeah, I think you have to ask the questions like that, like what you were just going through, because if it's a simple question to ask myself or anyone, am I fearful of success? And it's the easy answer is no.
Yeah, no way.
Like, yes, I want to be successful.
Yeah.
Like, that's a stupid question.
Sure.
Right? So I think like, it's like, all right, well then how do we realize that person that doesn't understand that they are, right? And I think some things could be like, hey, do you typically back out of things? Like, right? Like that might be a good clue. Like, are you a person that like typically backs out of things because you get nervous for something? Or, you know, like, let's just say someone asked you to, hey, I want you to come over to our school and talk to the kids.
Yeah.
Right, Matt? Hey, Matt, I want you to come over down to the school and talk to the kids. And you're like, great, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then the day of, or maybe the day before, you're like, oh, man, I got to talk in front of 500 kids today. Right? So do you allow that feeling to say, you know what, let me text him and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. Right? So that's what I mean by backing out of the situations.
And I'll tell you, like, when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to get fearless across my forearm.
Yeah, you still should.
All right. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get fearless. But the reality is that I'm full of fear.
Yeah.
And if you ask me to speak in front of people, I'm going to be fearful.
Yeah.
And I have to make a lot of decisions in my life. And I'm fearful day to day. But I know the other side of it, right? And I have to face that. We have to meet every day at the board and talk about the workouts. I'm in front of 20 kids. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm walking through fear daily.
Yeah.
With that.
And I think everyone has a little bit of that, right?
But I think the biggest thing is like from 17-year-old me when I was like fearless.
Yeah.
I was never once fearless.
Right.
But I've learned to walk through it. I've
Yeah.
learned that that's an okay thing, and that everybody is fearful like that.
Yeah.
You know, or most people are that I've met and that I've had conversations with are fearful people.
Yeah.
But it's how to deal with that and navigate.
And that's where I was going to go with it. Like, it's how you deal with it, and it's a mentality. Like, so you can have the mentality of fearless.
Yeah.
Because fear exists, right? And like
without a doubt.
It's just how you manage
Human
it and how you deal with it. And I think the fearless concept is a mentality. Yeah. So like, hey, you know, if I wanted to, you know, say about your speech, you wanted to go talk to these kids. Now it's a great opportunity, right, for you, right? You get to talk, you get to impact the youth, blah, 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 but you're nervous. So there's the fear exists. Now a fearless mentality is like, yeah, but it got to be done. It's got to be done because that's who I am.
Yep.
That's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. That's the fearless mentality saying, yeah, I'm nervous, but it's okay. I'm still going to rock this. I'm confident. I'm going to believe in myself to get through it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you're hitting on. And people have to develop that, right, through experience and small victories going on through that. So, like ask those questions. Ask those questions for you, because I'll tell you, a lot of times that's what is holding people back, and you don't even realize it. It's like, man, fear of success.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I remember we talked about this like a year ago.
Yeah.
And we got an in-depth conversation about it a year ago, and it really kind of shed the light, and it kind of came back in the light today.
Yes.
You know, but you know, like we've been talking about, we've seen it again and again.
Yeah.
And like those little things.
Well, it's great because when you get to jump on the other side of it, right? So if we experience success and we're able to say, hey, here were opportunities that we had to like push through, but like this is what happened. So now that we're on this side and we understand it. So like today, like in our world and in our lives, Matt, I'm sure you get presented opportunities of where you get a little fear, or you get a little nervous, or you get a little scared
all the time,
and maybe a little doubt sets in, and you're like, can I do that even at this point?
Yeah.
But again, the mentality helps you say, I've done this before.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be okay. I might be nervous, but listen, we're still going to rock this out.
Once we get, and like, here's a prime example, man, like day one for the podcast.
Heck.
Ooh, man, Deer in Headlights, you know, watch our first episode, man. Deer in Headlights, you know, I'm almost like one word answers. The microphone's over here, you can't hear me. And you're nervous. And like, you know, honestly, sometimes we get on, I am a little nervous, but then when we get going, I'm like,
it's all great. Good. And I'll say the same thing, like when we launched the podcast, it's the same thing, man, because you don't know everything. No. And I think that, you know what, that's also another good one. Like right there is, I think people think they have to have it perfect, or they have to know everything, or
you have to be ready for it.
Yes,
you have to be ready.
Have to have everything. I think it's a thing. You know, as a father and a parent now, there's people that have to have like, or be the perfect parent, or have to have like everything in place. But there's no perfect to it, dude. You're never prepared for a kid. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying. You'll find that out. Like, you're never prepared, but everyone wants to be like, yo, I got to get prepared. I got to do this and do this and do this. But you're never prepared for it. And that's the same thing with, you know, other opportunities, is like, you're never fully prepared. Like, you should be prepared in some sense, right? Yeah. But like, you never have it figured out. Yeah. Right. And I think that's what holds back people from doing that, because they believe, I don't have it figured out. Oh, but I don't know this, or, you know, I'm not really good at this yet, and, you know, I'll wait. And then you wait. And
you're
going to wait for years, man. You're going to wait for years.
Exactly.
And then that drift effect.
Oh, you know, dude, I know, that was
drift
great.
Effect starts
That's another
happening.
thing that hit me, man. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Because it's so true.
That is so true.
Right? And
so true.
What we're talking about is the idea of, like, if you're at a lake, and you start drifting, you drift slowly, you can't really feel it. You don't realize it. But then, like, say, let an hour go, and like, you're on the other side of the lake. That's like life. Yeah. You know, like, if you keep avoiding these things that you really want to do, you know, slowly but surely, like, you're going to be on a different side of where you wanted to be at. And you're going to be like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah. And you got a lot of catch up.
That's straight up and down. That's straight up and down, man. So yeah, let's close this out, man. I think that was a great podcast. Fun, yeah. Like, we had fun. We dropped it. You know, guys, listen, Stay tuned. I need you guys to subscribe, man.
Yeah.
We're almost at the 100 mark. So please
exciting.
get us to the 100 mark.
Super exciting.
Tell everyone, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you make it happen. This is 2 Down, 1 Over podcast. I'm Josh. This is Matt, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
All right.
Peace.